Welcome back to another video. Today we're indoors because it's freezing cold, icy, rainy, all the rest of that stuff. So even though it looks nice outside today, it is like 20 degrees. And so it's a really terrible time to fly. And so instead of going out and flying, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff I use to maintain my tiny whoops and build my tiny whoops, because a lot of people are starting to get into it, especially with HD0 now being a viable option with its lighter weight equipment. And also a lot of people jumping backwards into analog, because analog tiny whoops are fantastic. Before I dive into that, I wanted to give a quick update on everything else. Doing a whole bunch of long-term testing on radios, on microphones, and a few other things. So there are videos in the works. They are just taking their time. I've got an 04 Air Unit Pro and an 04 Air Unit Lite on their way, so should be getting into that really soon, and doing some testing, especially versus HD0 versus race mode. I've already got the hardware to build up both the Demibot and Grinderino I'm going to be using to test, and they should be ready to go probably end of next week, and then I'll start doing my normal testing at Woodbridge, just putting it into different video modes and testing it head to head. I'm going to do versus 03. I'll probably throw in a Vista there just for funsies, but what I'm really curious on is going from race mode on DJI to the same 1 watt, or close to 1 watt for DJI, it's like 1200 milliwatts, on HD0. So seeing, is there a penalty on DJI for going into race mode, and what does it look like versus the Freestyle VTX on HD0. Enough about what's coming in the future. Let me get into what I really want to talk about today, which is the tools that I have found incredibly useful and may not be the most obvious that I use to maintain, build, etc. tiny whoops. So let's get onto the desk and I'll show you what's up. So let's dive into my whoop tools, starting with this. This is something I think is a wonderful little addition to your kit. It's a magnetic build pad. So if you're working with small parts like you would on a tiny whoop, and you say drop a screw, there they go. So when you're taking apart motors and all the rest of that stuff, you're so much less likely to lose bits and parts. Then also up here at the top, you have little trays. Obviously this doesn't work so well if you have aluminum parts, those don't stick, or nylon, but everything else, small motor screws, stack screws, everything like that, it sticks to the magnetic build pad. It's a great little addition to your build and maintenance workspace. And with that said, if you're doing a lot of soldering, obviously this is not silicone like this is. If you don't already have a build mat, I would highly recommend getting a good silicone build mat. It's basically resistant to heat, so if you get solder on it, if you leave your soldering iron on it by accident, it's going to be in its proper shape at the end, and it'll protect your surface. Up here at the top, you have little magnetic parts trays, and then you have some tool storage and organization. A silicone build mat is a great addition to your workspace, no matter what size quad you're working on. But for me, tiny whoops, this is a really helpful addition because of the organization. Since we're talking about screws and magnet stuff, let's talk about precision drivers. These are not a necessity, but if you're working with tech stuff, having a good precision screwdriver is somewhat essential. Has all the different bits you might need. For tiny whoops, it's really only Phillips head and sometimes maybe one of the nut drivers, but overall having a precision screwdriver kit is super useful. I personally love the iFixit stuff. That's what I started with. I'm currently testing out the LTT Linus Tech Tips bit set. It has a few little advantages to the iFixit set. First is the bits themselves are longer necked. So you can see the thin part is just a little bit longer. So if you're getting into hard to reach screws, I think the LTT one is a little bit better for that. In addition, they made this side of it magnetic. So you can use it as a parts tray just like you could with the iFixit set, but instead of wobbling around or moving around, your parts stay still. In addition to having the magnetic build tray, the tray actually also separates out. So you can actually bring this around with you and use it as a parts tray away from the driver set itself, which is super handy, especially out in the field. If you're doing stuff like, say, taking off the feet on a GoPro, it's really nice to be able to catch all your screws so you don't lose stuff out in the field. Now that we've talked through the precision screwdrivers, next on the docket, electric screwdrivers. This has been my go-to. Electric screwdriver for my whoop kit. Pretty much only really use these little Phillips heads, but it's been a super nice little compact driver that boop, boop, boop. So you got forward, reverse. There's no speed control, charges via USB-C, and I think it's sub $20, but this is a fantastic little electric driver to add to your Whoop toolkit. It's also super small and fits in my little, I call it my Whoop kit bag back there. This is the new one I'm testing out. And while it is significantly larger than the other driver, it has a few advantages. The first, it comes in this nice little aluminum tray. To get the driver out, you push on the top, everything pops out. Lay it out here on the bench. As you can hear, it's aluminum. And then you have all of the different bits and drivers. A lot of them are going to be the same as the other kit. The advantage here is you do have some longer neck screwdrivers getting into tight places. And then here is, I think, what really makes a difference. So it has a precision set of tweezers and also a little rotating spudger. So if you need to like pry something or get something out, it's super handy. And then you also have this right here, which you can stick the tip of your bit in and magnetize it. So you just go doot, 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 and then you can pick up your screws. Definitely more a premium version of the other screwdriver than something new or revolutionary. And actually, before I put this away, you do have a lock, a low speed and a high speed setting. You've got the screw piece here, and you also have little LED illuminating lights. So if you're in a dark space, super handy. So if you're going out to a Whoop race and you say don't have a ton of light, it's a really neat feature. But overall, this is a little more expensive, but I think it is a nice upgrade over the other electric screwdriver. Last but not least, let's talk about stuff to see better. And we're gonna start with the nerd goggles. Ciati's talked about them a bunch. FPV Vegan has talked about them a bunch. But these are basically just magnifying glasses with little interchangeable lens adapters from 1.5 all the way to 3.5 times, whatever called 3.5, all the way from 1.5 to 3.5 magnification. I can't talk today. And it's super handy when you're building a Whoop, especially when you're checking those little itty bitty solder joints to make sure you didn't bridge anything. Obviously, it's not the biggest deal, but it might save you some money if you don't bridge a solder joint, because most people don't have a smoke stopper for 1S. And then last but not least in this little tool checkup, I've got this right here, a little Bosch & Lomb 10X jeweler's loop, I think it's called, or magnifying loop. You basically put this up to your eye and you can see really, really close up to your quad that you're working on. It helps you check and double check your work or look and inspect stuff on the board. Super handy when maintaining, building Whoops. Definitely worth the like $5 or $10 it is for a jeweler's loop. And that wraps it up. Those are some of my little handy, useful adds to a tiny Whoop build kit. This is stuff you can use at home, use in the field. Obviously, as always, links are down below. Some of them are affiliate links. They don't cost you anything, but they do help this channel out, helps you build stuff, explore stuff, test stuff, all the rest of that jam. So as always, if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out in the stupid YouTube algorithm. And as always, thank you for joining me. Catch you in the next one. Bye.